a little introduction, everyone. So, as you know, we are going to study Mars today. And in astrology, Mars is the planet associated with action, with libido, with assertion, with aggression. But there's more to Mars than just that. So although Eris, the ancient Greek god of war, was violent and brutish, Mark, its Roman counterpart, had a more dignified demeanor. So Mars governs military conquests, battles, soldiers. So it's all about aggression, survival, and animal instinct through desire, drive, energy, and sexuality. So whilst Pluto is governmental power, Mars is our individual power. Mars is that thrusting motion which includes both the sexual desire and the inspired ambition. And astrologically, Mars reveals what ignites us, what gets us hot and bothered, literally, representing the way we find motivation, take action, and get things done. So we're using the Martian energy when we're racing to meet a deadline, when we're competing for a selective position or expressing our deep-seated value system. So Mars is that pounding heart, the pumping blood, and the adrenaline shooting through our veins. And just like Mercury and Venus, who are our personal planets, Mars impacts us on a day-to-day basis, a lot more than the outer planets. So Mars's motion in the sky has a direct impact on how we are or aren't finding that motivation. But what does Mars mean for you individually? So as you know, your Mars placements, exactly where Mars was located at the exact date, time, location of your birth, reveals the way you take action, what motivates you, and how you approach hard work and determination. Mars is obviously closely associated with our sexual desire and libido, and the placement also shows the type of lovemaking we crave. So if you've been looking for motivation, inspiration, and a little kick, you know where, unpacking your natal Mars through the house, the zodiac sign, and right here today through the Sabian symbol will help you find that motivation. And ultimately, all the excitement, passion, and ambition that you need is already part of this unique cosmic DNA that we all have. So without any further ado, I will hand it over to James, who will enlighten us even more on the Mars energy. James, over to you.
Everything that I was going to say has just been said, and it's wonderful. It's wonderful, except for one thing, which I think we can focus on in some depth. That there's clearly the energy of orgasm is a part of how we understand Mars at the ecstatic level, where ecstasy means you're out of the stasis of self. That's what the word means, and that's what the Hindu mythology would have us believe, that this corporeal life is the orgasm of Shakti and Shiva. This is just such a wonderful metaphor. So the Mars component of that opposites attracting hurricane is what we're studying here. So it is the competitiveness against all of the other sperm, actually, that have but one target. So without Mars being strong and competitive, then it's impotent. It has no potency, it has no power. So this is the power of thrust, as distinct from the power of attraction and pull and other kinds of power. So we're studying a certain way with power, And here's the lovely part of this, the exaltation of which can take different forms. So if it isn't orgasm itself, then it would be something perhaps more sublime than orgasm, but with the same intensity and meaning. And here we get religious devotion. And if you think about the ecstasy of the celibate monk who has just quietly walked this path at this time every day for years beyond number, as he recites his favorite prayer, that's the sublimation of the same energy as the warrior who doesn't care about whether he lives or dies, as long as when it happens, it is with tremendous impeccable honor. So we've got versions of Mars there which could not seem to be alike at all until you look at the essence nature of it. So we're talking about the spiritual side of Mars, the exaltation of the principle of honor and competitiveness and doing everything you can. And the whole of the Bhagavad Gita is based on this one story where Arjuna throws down his sword and said, I cannot fight against my family. And Krishna says, pick up your sword, mate, you're a soldier, be a soldier. It don't change anything, just get on with it. And that warrior energy is inherent within the Mars-like attitude of being. So there's a certain quality of the first, the hero, the one who is willing to go all out, not only because he's prepared to give his life for this cause, that's of no concern to him, but secondarily, or perhaps primarily, he doesn't think about that, he thinks about winning. And that's the only thing in the focus of his attention every moment of every day for the whole of his life. He just thinks about winning. You think about Spartacus and those kind of guys that used to fight for a living, or they would die. They had nothing going on but intention. And that intentionality, for example, is in its exaltation in Capricorn. Capricorn has this going on in a very earthy kind of way, a plodding kind of way, but for no moment of their waking life are they in two minds about what they're doing next and why. Every single step is with that focus. And although Aries is doing it very, very differently, when Aries focus is his attention, it's really, really pointed. You don't get Aries thinking two thoughts at the same time. Wouldn't think, So you got a single pointedness with Mars. The other kind of quality which goes along with this whole thing of subliming or sublimating the orgasm into something is not always the spiritual. If it's the material, then you have the careerist who wants more. They want their skyscraper to be taller than the one next door. And they want their office to have cost more money to create than the one next door. And they compete all of the time. And that pushes them to the top. And that could be just power itself, so that you get the political strategist, that kind of very ambitious Mars energy. Okay, so added to what Diana has said, I think we've got enough to be going on here. What I'd like you to discuss in the breakout rooms three questions. If someone blocks your legitimate desire, what do you do? Someone blocks your legitimate desire, what do you do? Okay, the second question. How did you get to become so individualistic? How did you get to become so individualistic? The third question, which warrior model do you most admire? Which warrior model do you most admire?
So it's like going down into the mine. I need to hang out. So the myth of Inanna springs to mind, you know, going down into the underworld and hang out there for a while. Because, you know, it's not whimsical to do this work, in my mind anyway. It is confronting and interesting and joyful, and that as deep as one can go, in my experience, I can only speak from my experience, as high we can rise. So there's that energy of emergence for me with the Sabian symbol, to emerge with something that is interesting and that in a Libran way can then be shared for the greater good, which matters enormously to me.
My Mars is in the communication house, and it's in the third house, where I always try to communicate this idea of power and strength of the body together with the artistic and delicate energy of the soul, through art, through dance, and I was a rhythmic gymnast. And the thing was that we had to really be very aggressive to our bodies to look beautiful, because ballet, it seems like it's so light and beautiful, but it's an aggressive work with your body. So it's both. It's to have this beauty. There is this price of being disciplined and knowing who you really are.
I think there's many threads in my mind. We're all kaleidoscopes, and so sometimes change happens in increments, and it's just that slight turn when we think we're not getting anywhere, and then something shifts and it aligns, and it's like, there, okay, understand, and to share it in a rightful and skillful time. Just like a miner has to have a lot of courage to go deep, he's risking his life in many of those circumstances, and there can be a lot of social injustice around miners as well. So I care a lot about community, and yeah. So which warrior do you most admire? Intuitively, it was Nelson Mandela that came in.
My Mars is in Sagittarius too, which is the ocean covered with white caps. There was more than one person in my group with a Sagittarius Mars, and I think there's something about the Sagittarius energy that's this spontaneity and this sort of not quite knowing what the plan is, but just sort of launching in any way. And I think that, I mean, the ocean is this force that nobody has any control over, and it's constantly changing, and just even, you know, cutting a clear path through it is difficult. I mean, you know, you've got to kind of work with your environment, and the water for me is the idea of the subconscious, and so you're also, you know, working also with your emotional world and the spiritual world, both in the sense of the forces of nature and the sort of spiritual, you know, the subconscious connection to spirit. And so, I mean, let's think, how does it manifest for me? I think it is in this idea of the spontaneity.
Well, Mars is at the 20th degree of Taurus, and it lies just in the 4th house, very close conjunction to the nadir. And my Sun is also conjunct the nadir and conjunct Mars. Sun and Mars are both close square to Pluto. very, very intense configuration. And on my most vulnerable point, the nadir is where we are most vulnerable. And that's where I have my most aggressive sense of self. My Mars is in this Sabian symbol, which is wind, clouds, and haste. And it gives the sense of the wind blowing unseen across the sky. So you see the cloud, but you don't see the wind. And in life, there's a spiritual force unseen blowing around, which you cannot see. But there's something about this placement which enables me to enact it through my Mars. When my Mars is operating well, then it's expressing this spiritual freedom of the moment. So I've done that in certain ways, playing rugby very rarely, but sometimes I got it then, playing any sport, but dancing, especially when I'm doing sacred dance. Sufis specialize in this. And so I've learned the practice of turning, the dervish practice of what's called whirling. I learned how to do that. And that's the kind of ultimate sort of sense of it. And yet to remind me of that sense of aligning physicality with spiritual beauty, I've chosen as my token this guitar. Guitars generally awaken that quality of physicalizing my sense of sublime beauty. And this particular guitar was given to me by way of wages. One of my first gigs in Colorado some 30 years ago, I used to use my guitar to teach dances of universal peace.